Welcome back to the Shir on Lekutis Sichos. Today we will be studying together the first Sicha on Pashas Pekudei in volume 11, starting page 169. This is a Sicha on a Rashi, so I strongly recommend that you take a Chumash with Rashi and look up Shmois, Perek Lamed Tes, Posuk Mem Gimel, chapter 39, Posuk 43, and Vayikra, Perek Tes, Posuk Chav Gimel, chapter 9, Posuk 23. Both Rashis are related to each other, and parts of them actually are identical. If you don't have a Chumash and Rashi handy, I will be going through the text of the Rashis with you, so that you're able to understand what the Rebbe is addressing. Now, 2 words of introduction. Point number 1. The Rebbe, over the years, from 1964, Pashas Noach, when the Rebbe first began teaching Sichos on Rashi in what was originally a session of learning in the memory of and for the benefit of the neshama of the Rebbe's mother, who had passed away just about a month before in Aseret Yemei Tshuva. When the Rebbe started teaching those Rashi's Sichos, he then carried on even after the year of Avelis. He carried on for over 20 years. During the course of those 20 years, the Rebbe formulated over 100 rules in learning Rashi. Almost all of them are not found in earlier Sforim. The Rebbe works them out from Rashi himself. One of those rules is that Rashi is not bound by the language of his source. Rashi may quote a Gemara or a Medrash, but he won't quote it verbatim where he feels that understanding the Pshutei Shel Mikra, the simple sense of the Pasuk, which is Rashi's primary objective, when that objective is better suited by modifying the language of his source, Rashi will not hesitate to adapt and modify the language, the better to understand the pshat, the simple meaning of the pasuk. The Gemara and the Medrash follow different methods of interpretation. They are not necessarily out just for the Pshutei Shel Mikra. They follow the method of Drash, of Halacha, but for Rashi, his objective is Pshutei Shel Mikra, so he brings the Gemara and the Medrash insofar as they satisfy his objective of explaining Pshutei Shel Mikra. Another introduction, a timeline, so that we understand the sequence of events in regard to the construction and finally putting up the Mishkan, the induction of the Mishkan, and when the Mishkan finally was actually used as a holy place, the residence for Hashem's presence. Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the mountain where he had been for 120 days with Hashem, and where Hashem instructed him on how to make the Mishkan. It's not exactly clear at what stage Hashem instructed him. There are differences of opinion, but at any rate, at some stage, Hashem instructed him on the Mishkan that he wanted built. He taught Moshe Rabbeinu, he showed Moshe Rabbeinu what he wanted built. That is the subject of Pashas Truma and Tetzaveh, Hashem's instruction to Moshe Rabbeinu. Part of the instruction is also in Pashas Kisisa concerning the kiyoid, the hand basin, and the ketoires, the incense. That is Hashem's instruction. Now, on the ground, Moshe Rabbeinu come down from the mountain the day after Yom Kippur, the year following the exodus from Egypt, and Moshe Rabbeinu conveys to the people Hashem's instruction that they make a Mishkan so he will dwell among them. On Yom Kippur, Hashem fully forgave them for the sin of the Egel, which they had made 80 days before. So now on Yom Kippur, they were fully forgiven. Moshe Rabbeinu comes down with the good news that Hashem forgave them and that now Hashem was ready to dwell among them so they could proceed with the construction of the Mishkan. And now Moshe Rabbeinu tells the people which materials will be needed for the Mishkan and what has to be built. He subsequently tells the craftsmen, Bezalel or Holiov, and a whole team of craftsmen and artisans exactly how to make the different parts of the Mishkan. The people, following Moshe Rabbeinu's instructions, immediately go to work, bringing the necessary materials, donating the gold, silver, 15 different kinds of materials which were necessary for the Mishkan, and the whole fundraising campaign was fantastically fast and generous. Fast, it was completed in a day or 2 days, differences of opinion, and it was generous in that, as the Pasuk says clearly, they not only met the quota of what was needed for the Mishkan, but they exceeded it to the point where, in a once-off historical announcement, the people were told, stop your donations, stop your contributions, it's more than enough. So this is right after Yom Kippur. The craftsmen then go to work. They build the different parts of the Mishkan for the next several months. When they finish, they bring the completed parts to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu sees that indeed they had followed the instructions to the letter, and he blesses them when they brought the different parts made to him. That was, in all likelihood, on the 22nd of Adar, approximately 6 months later. Now, the reason it was probably that day is because from the next day, the 23rd of Adar, the Mishkan was inducted for 7 days, meaning every day, according to Rashi, the Mishkan was assembled and disassembled. Also, the different parts of the service of the Mishkan were done by Arna Kohen, assisted by his children, and they did this as a kind of dry run so that they would be familiar with the way the Mishkan had to be erected and the service had to be done when it was finally meant to begin being done, when it would finally be erected to remain standing until they traveled on. But it was erected to remain standing, and when the service would formally begin, so to speak, for real, and that final erecting of the Mishkan and the service was on the 1st of Nisan, Rosh Chodesh Nisan. That was the 8th day, 7 days of induction, and finally on the 8th day, the Mishkan is fully erected to stand, and the service is now done, and Hashem Shechina resides and rests among the people. The people see that the cloud has descended upon the Mishkan, and they are aware of Hashem's presence among them. Is a great simcha. Our pasuk deals with the 22nd of Adar, in all likelihood, when the people brought the different parts of the Mishkan to Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is teased how they followed the instruction to the letter, and he blesses them. In the words of the pasuk, Vayar Moshe es kol ha-melocha, Moshe Rabbeinu saw all the work, and that they had done it precisely as Hashem had instructed. Vayivorech oisam Moshe, Moshe Rabbeinu blessed them. Rashi cites the words of the pasuk, Vayivorech oisam Moshe, Moshe Rabbeinu blessed them, and he explains, what was that blessing? Omar lohem, he said to them, Yehiroton shetishre shchina b'maiste yedechem, may it be Hashem's will that His presence reside on your handiwork. And he continued, V'hinoyam Hashem Elokeinu oleinu, may the sweetness, the pleasantness of Hashem's presence be upon us. V'goimer, etc. The pasuk continues in chapter 90 in Tehillim, U'masta yadeinu koinenu oleinu, U'masta yadeinu koineneu, may our handiwork be firmly established, and may Hashem approve and establish the work of our hands. And Rashi continues, after quoting Moshe Rabbeinu's blessing, Rashi finishes, V'hu echod miyud aleph mizmorim, and this is one of the 11 chapters shebetfila leMoshe, of Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer, which is brought in Tehillim. David HaMelech took prayers which were said by people before him, 10 of them in fact, and he incorporated them in the Tehillim. Chapter 90 begins with the word Tefillah leMoshe, a prayer by Moshe. So it's not only chapter 90, which is Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer, but all the way through to chapter 100, it's all Moshe Rabbeinu's prayers. So this introduction to Tefillah leMoshe applies to 11 chapters. This V'hinoyam Hashem Elokeinu oleinu is part of chapter 90, so it's one of the 11 chapters in Tefillah leMoshe. That's the Rashi. Now we need to understand, says the Rebbe, several points. What is bothering Rashi that he feels any necessity to explain what Moshe Rabbeinu's blessing consisted of? Surely when people follow Hashem's instructions, and so punctiliously, as the pasuk said, surely Moshe Rabbeinu would give them a big yasher koyach, say, may you be blessed. What's even more troublesome is that Rashi, in his saying what the blessing was, in fact, turns the blessing into a prayer. Yehi Ratzon, may it be Hashem's will that His presence rests on your handiwork. Yehi Ratzon is the formula for a prayer, not so much a bracha. Next question, when Rashi says, Omar lohem, he said to them, Moshe Rabbeinu said to them, may it be Hashem's will, etc. Why do we need those words, he said to them? Rashi is commenting on the words of the pasuk, Vayivorech oisam Moshe, he blessed them. So Rashi can say right away what the blessing was. Third of all, how does Rashi know that not only did he say, may Hashem's presence rest upon your handiwork, but that he continued with this pasuk, which we find in Tehillim, V'hinoyam Hashem Elokeinu oleinu, may Hashem's sweetness rest upon us. Even if for some reason it's necessary to say so, then Rashi should say so, not here. It doesn't add to our understanding of the pasuk. Rashi should have said it there in Tehillim chapter 90, where it says that V'hinoyam Moshe Rabbeinu said, may the sweetness of Hashem rest upon us and our handiwork. So Rashi should have said there that this is Moshe Rabbeinu's blessing that he said when they brought the parts of the Mishkan to him. Fourth of all, when Rashi typed that postuk in Tehillim, he begins it, V'hinoyam Hashem Elokeinu aleinu, and then he says, V'goyimer, etc., but he doesn't bring the rest of the postuk. Now, presumably, when Rashi alludes to something but doesn't say it clearly, and this is another one of the Rebbe's rules, that when Rashi alludes to something, the reason is that he's answering a question which is not immediately apparent. It's not the average 5-year-old child learning Chumash who will raise this question. It's an astute student who will catch that there's something wrong here, but because it's not a question, a problem that stares you in the face, Rashi doesn't find it necessary to address. However, for the sake of that student who might catch the question, Rashi provides an answer in the form of an allusion, of a goimer. So what is that question which the student might come up with on Rashi's explanation? Fifth of all, finally, why does Rashi add at the end, after quoting the posuk, why does he add those words that this is one of the 11 chapters which are part of Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer? True, the Medrash, which is the source of Rashi, says so, but we know that Rashi doesn't quote the Medrash verbatim, only what's relevant to the Pekudei Shel Mikra, the simple understanding of the posuk. And further, Rashi doesn't even stay here as is found in Medrash, which means that in the eyes of Rashi, this addition is necessary for the sake of Pekudei Shel Mikra. It's not just a Medrash which fits in with Pekudei Shel Mikra, but it's mamish al derech hapshat. This is the simple meaning of the postuk, that this was one of the 11 chapters which Moshe Rabbeinu said. Why? Now the Rebbe proceeds to explain as the second Rashi. This is the Rashi on Parshas Vayikra. In Chumash Vayikra, Parshas Shmini. Parshas Shmini deals with the final erection of the Mishkan on Rosh Chodesh Nisan after the 7 days of induction, which are described first in Hashem's instruction in Parshas Tetzaveh, and then in their execution in Parshas Tzav. So finally, the 8th day is described in Parshas Shmini. Vahi Bayom HaShmini. There, after describing the special sacrifices that were offered on that day, the Pasuk says that Aaron HaKohen first blessed the people with Birkas Kohenim, as Rashi explains, and then he came down from the Mizbeach. He and Moshe Rabbeinu entered the Mishkan. They then came back out again and blessed the people. And thereupon Hashem's glory appeared to all the people, as I said before. So that's what the Pasuk said, that Moshe and Aaron entered the Mishkan, came back out, they blessed the people, and thereupon Hashem's glory appeared. So there Rashi comments on the words, Vayetzu, they went out, Vayvorchu es ha'om, and they blessed the people. Rashi's comment is, Omru, they said, Vihi noyam Hashem oleinu, may the sweetness of Hashem be upon us. Yehirotzen shetishra shchina b'maiste yedechem. May it be Hashem's will that His presence reside in your handiwork. So we see it's very much the same comment as the one in the Rashi here in Pashas Pekudei, but Rashi changes things around. And we need to understand why he changes. He doesn't say, as he does here in Pekudei, that this is the one of the 11 chapters that Moshe Rabbeinu said. He reverses the order of the brachos. In our Parsha, Rashi says that the blessing was first, Yehi Rotzoin, may it be Hashem's will that He reside on your handiwork, and then Vihi Noyam, over there he says it the other way. Here, in Parshas Pekudei, Rashi says, Omru, Rashi says, Omru, they said, that blessing consisted of, and he goes on. Here, Rashi said, Omar Lohem, he said to them. Why the discrepancies? So first of all, the Rebbe said, what is the problem in the Pasuk which Rashi finds it necessary to address? And the Rebbe explains that the people are bringing the Mishkan to Moshe Rabbeinu after the craftsmen finished crafting all the different parts of the Mishkan. Since right after that, it says, Moshe Rabbeinu blessed them. So who is the them whom Moshe Rabbeinu blessed? So apparently it would be the craftsmen. That leaves us with a difficulty. Why in fact did Moshe not bless all the people who contributed so generously the materials which were needed for the Mishkan? In fact, the Pasuk says it was men and women who gave away their jewelry, which is a difficult thing for women to do, but they, with alacrity, they gave their jewelry for the Mishkan until the point that they had to make an announcement, stop contributing. So they were so generous and so quick to carry out the instruction to donate. Why didn't Moshe Rabbeinu bless them? Moshe Rabbeinu loved Eden, so surely he would appreciate their doing as per Hashem's instruction, so punctually and punctiliously bringing all the materials right away. So he would have blessed them then. Perhaps, says the Rebbe, we could say that in fact, when it says in our Pasuk, Moshe Rabbeinu blessed them, the them is all the people. Why would we say that it's all the people, since Rashi doesn't explain that the Bnei Yisrael here are the craftsmen who made the Mishkan? When Moshe Rabbeinu saw that they had done it as according to Hashem's instruction, so he blessed them. Rashi doesn't say that it was the craftsmen, so it refers to all the people. Maybe that's the way we're supposed to learn it. But what about the fact that Moshe Rabbeinu saw that the people had done the work according to Hashem's instruction? What did the people do? If all the people had contributed was their possessions, but not the work was done by the craftsmen. So how does Hashem bless them all with His blessing for the malacha, for the work of the Mishkan? So actually, Rashi already explained it earlier, where he says that the malacha can also refer to the job of bringing the contributions. So we're left with a question. Why didn't Moshe Rabbeinu bless them immediately when they brought their contributions? So either he's blessing the craftsmen and not all the people, or if he's blessing the people for their donations as well as the craftsmen for their work, he's 6 months late. They already brought their donations 6 months ago. Why is he only blessing them now? Surely the Rebbe concludes that, in fact, Moshe Rabbeinu would have blessed them at the time when they brought the contributions. It's obvious, it's clear that Moshe Rabbeinu would have appreciated it, and instead a word of blessing like Yasher Koyach, more power to you. And the Pasuk doesn't even have to say it. What the Pasuk does say is that Moshe Rabbeinu gave an additional blessing. Now, when they bring all the handiwork to Moshe Rabbeinu, now he says to them a particular blessing which is relevant at this point. What was that? The people were doing all this work, the contribution, and fashioning the Mishkan, all in order that they be blessed and graced with Hashem's presence dwelling among them. And that would be for them also a sign that they had gone back into Hashem's good graces, whereas he had been displeased with them after the sin of the Egel. So the fact that Hashem would reside among them would show that Hashem had in fact forgiven them fully and completely and would reside now among them. He favored them. That's why they did all that work. So surely when they brought it to Moshe, what they're looking forward to is the presence of Hashem coming to rest upon the Mishkan. That's the blessing that Moshe Rabbeinu now gave them. It's appropriate for the time. So that's why Rashi says at the very beginning, Omar Lohem, he said, Moshe Rabbeinu said to them, because it's a kind of bracha that pertained to them at this point, where they are finished with making the different parts of the Mishkan. All they want is that Hashem should reside in it. However, we still need to understand, because Rashi says on the Pasuk that they brought the Mishkan to Moshe. Why did they bring it? Because they could not erect it. The kroshim, the boards from which the Mishkan was constructed, were so heavy that no one could raise them up. So they brought it to Moshe. And Hashem saved that job for Moshe because Moshe didn't have any part in all the work of the Mishkan. Hashem saved that job for him of erecting the boards of the Mishkan, which he put his hands to it, and they went up miraculously. So it was because of Moshe Rabbeinu's participation that the Mishkan was finally completed. So surely Moshe Rabbeinu should be included in that blessing. May Hashem rest upon your handiwork. Where do we find the blessing for Moshe? That's why Rashi continues with the Pasuk, V'hinoyam Hashem Elokeinu Oleinu. May the sweetness and the presence of Hashem be upon us, where Moshe Rabbeinu includes himself with all the people. And this bracha is the one bracha which actually sounds like a bracha, not so much like a prayer like the first part, Yehi Ratzoin, and it includes Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, why does Rashi add that this is one of the 11 chapters which Moshe Rabbeinu said, which the Rebbe asked at the beginning of this Ticha? Because, in fact, there's an opinion in Medrash that it was not Moshe Rabbeinu who said that pasuk. It was the people's response to Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer. When Moshe Rabbeinu said his prayer, the end of it is what the people responded to Moshe. May Hashem's sweetness rest upon us. Says Rashi, no. We see that there are 11 chapters, all of them part of Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer. Had the word Tefillah LaMoshe, Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer, been the introduction only to chapter 90, there we might have said that part of it is Moshe's, and the rest of it is the response. But since we see that Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer continues in chapter 91 and further, the 11 chapters and all, it is unlikely that in the middle you have the response of the people, so this is surely what Moshe Rabbeinu said. Now we know that Moshe Rabbeinu blessed the people. It says so in our postuk. We have a prayer of Moshe Rabbeinu that the presence of Hashem should rest on their handiwork in that postuk in Tehillim chapter 90. So we put the two together, says Rashi. In fact, this unspecified prayer of Moshe Rabbeinu in Tehillim is the blessing which he said to the people as related here in our posuk. Now, the astute student might ask, how can you say that Moshe Rabbeinu said those words, V'hi noyam Hashem Elokeinu aleinu, that the whole chapter is part of Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer? Earlier in that same chapter, it says, our years on this earth are 70 years, if with great vigor, 80 years. Moshe Rabbeinu himself, his presence refuted that, because we know that he took the people out of Mitzrayim when he was 80 years old. So now he's close to 81 years old. So how is it that Moshe Rabbeinu says that our lifespan is 70 or 80 years when he himself lived longer? In fact, he lived till 120. Which might actually be the reason why the Medrash wants to say that in fact this is not part of Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer, it's the people's response. The V'hi noyam is part of the response, because not the whole chapter is Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer. That's why Rashi adds, this is one of the 11, because this is one, being one of those 11, surely this is part of Moshe Rabbeinu's prayer. And that's what Rashi alludes to, Vegoimer, as we will see. Now for the discrepancies between this Rashi here and the Rashi in Parsha Shmini, as we learned earlier, that Rashi reverses the order of the blessing. He leaves out the word lohem, and he leaves out that this is one of the 11 chapters which Moshe Rabbeinu said. Now we can understand why the discrepancy. In Parsha Shmini, the blessing follows immediately on the service performed by Moshe and Aaron. This is the first time that Aaron officially serves as the Kohen Gadol, and he and Moshe Rabbeinu come out, and they say words of blessing which relate to the service. That was what was behind the bracha. So what is the bracha? V'hi noyam Hashem Elokeinu aleinu. Who is the aleinu? On Aaron and Moshe and their service. This is not a blessing just for the people for the construction of the Mishkan. This is for the service which Aaron and Moshe did. Therefore, Rashi doesn't say Omru lahem. They said to the people. It's not what's relevant for the people. It's what's relevant for their avodah. And he doesn't bring the Vegoimer, because the rest of the posuk is a new idea and not related to the service of Moshe and Aaron, because it talks about their handiwork. That's a different idea. And Rashi doesn't conclude that this is one of the 11 chapters of Moshe Rabbeinu, because here there's no thought of it being said by the people as a response to Moshe. It says clearly, they came out, they blessed the people. Whereas in Parshas Pekudei, in our Pasuk, is talking about the people who brought it to Moshe, and Moshe Rabbeinu blessed them. So there it's important to say that this too, Vihinoyam, is part of Moshe Rabbeinu's words. Now, why does Rashi turn around the order? There in Parshas Pekudei, earlier in our Pasuk, it is the Shechina coming to rest upon their handiwork which they had done. In other words, their dedication to making the Mishkan is what would bring about the Shechina coming to rest. In Parsha Shmini, as the Pasuk says, and Rashi makes clear, that it is the services of Moshe and Aaron that lead to the Shechina coming to rest. So, in Parshas Pekudei, the first thing that Moshe Rabbeinu says is that Yehi Rotzoin, may it be Hashem's will for the future that Hashem will rest upon your handiwork. In Parshas Shmini, where he's talking about now, having done all the service which would evoke Hashem's presence, the first thing is, may Hashem's presence reside on us, v'hinoyam Hashem Elokeinu aleinu. Now the Rabbi goes on to talk about the lesson for our lives that we can learn from this Rashi. The Rabbi had a policy that every Rashi has a Yeno Shel Torah. The word Yeno Shel Torah, the wine of Torah, actually comes from the Shaloh, the Shnei Luchas Habrit, about 300 years earlier. But the Rebbe explains those words and he applies them. The Yeno Shel Torah, the wine of Torah, refers to the inner aspect, the more esoteric aspect of Torah, and particularly the lesson that a person learns in his personal service of Hashem that he derives from the Pirush Rashi. So what's the Yeno Shel Torah, the lesson from our Rashi? Says the Rebbe, the people worked really hard. First of all, they gave a very generous contribution. And then they worked very punctiliously to fulfill Hashem's instruction to the letter. But in order for the Shechina to reside there, in that Mishkan which they had worked so hard on, they must bring it to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he blesses it, and thereby, by his blessing, the Shechina resides on their handiwork. So two things. First of all, the Mishkan must be brought to Moshe, and second of all, Moshe Rabbeinu must bless them, and only thereby does the Shechina reside. Now, when it comes to everybody's avodah, everybody's serving Hashem, each person in his own way, one person through his Torah study, another one through his dedication to mitzvahs. So he must know that it's not by dint of his own prowess, his own ability, his own generosity, that he will come to the ultimate purpose of this avodas Hashem, that Hashem will accept that service of his, that he will reside, so to speak, within the person himself, who is a miniature Mishkan. No, he must bring the parts that he did, he must bring them to Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu is no longer with us physically, but every generation has its Moshe. As the Zohar says, is Pashtus of the Moshe b'chol doro v'doro. in every generation there are people who are extensions of Moshe Rabbeinu, all the way down to our own generation, our own Rebbe. So we have to bring that service to the Rebbe. Only by his ability can he turn our effort into a Mishkan for Hashem, because the Rebbe is the one who serves as the connecting force between Bnei Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But even that's not enough. Even after we bring it to Moshe, the Shekhinah still doesn't rest until Moshe Rabbeinu blesses them. In simple words, says the Rebbe, every Yid, with all of his qualities and his great service of Hashem, must be connected to the Pashtusa of Moshe, the extension of Moshe, of his generation, the Rebbe in his generation, and thereby he's connected with Hashem, his God. As in fact the Medrash says on the Pasuk, Vayaminu b'Hashem u'v'Moshe Avdoi, the people believed in Hashem when they saw the Egyptians drowning at the Yam Suf. They believed in Hashem and in Moshe, his servant. So the Mechilta, the Medrash says that he who believes in Hashem believes in Moshe, his servant, and he who believes in Moshe as a servant of Hashem, he is the one who believed in Hashem. They're interdependent. The Gemara also says that if someone has a sick person in his house, what must he do? He should go to the Chacham in his city. And the Rebbe defined that. The Chacham is someone who is able to foresee the future, as the Gemara says in Masechta Midas, Tomid. What does it mean he's able to see the future? The words are actually Roya es Hanoilot. He sees what is yet to be born. But the Hasidic interpretation, which is already said by the Alter Rebbe, is that the Chacham sees how things are being born, continuously being born, emerging from Hashem's hand, who is constantly making them. That's a true Chacham who sees things not as they are, but as they emerge from Hashem's handiwork. So therefore, he's able to recognize the truth of the illness, and therefore he's also able to arouse mercy to daven for this patient, since he sees Hashem's word. He's able to rearrange those words and the words which caused the illness in the first place, to rearrange them to be a blessing. The second condition about this Chacham is that he mustn't be a cloistered, secluded Chacham who sits and learns Torah in a room. He must be a Chacham in the city, says the Gemara, meaning that he relates and he interacts with people in the city. And that kind of a Chacham is the one who's able to accomplish for the people. However, this accomplishment and this bringing the Mishkan to Moshe Rabbeinu and being blessed by Moshe Rabbeinu is contingent on the fact that they, the people and the craftsmen, had done all that they were to do. Then they can bring their completed work to Moshe Rabbeinu. And so it is too with us, that when we bring our Avodas Hashem to Moshe Rabbeinu, it must be after we have extended our efforts to the degree that we can, then we can come to the Moshe Rabbeinu with our completed work. Not that we should be, as the previous Rebbe called them, Tzoros Chasidim, Chasidim of troubles. When times are good, when everything's fine, they don't show up. They don't come to the Rebbe. When a Rebbe wants to charge them with a mission, they're nowhere to be found. But when they're in trouble and they need a moifist, a miracle, then they come running. No, then they're not receptacles for Moshe Rabbeinu's bracha. But if they've already done all that is dependent upon them, then they come to Moshe Rabbeinu in a way of emunah, of faith, and Moshe Rabbeinu participates with them in their avodas Hashem, and he causes their avodas Hashem to be a dwelling place for Hashem. Now, the Rebbe doesn't spell out what it means to bring the Mishkan to Moshe, but it seems from the Rebbe's earlier words is that it's the recognition, bringing it to Moshe means attributing it. Bringing the fact that we've been able to accomplish whatever we did accomplish in Avodas Hashem, attributing that to the being empowered by the Moshe Rabbeinu and the Moshe Rabbeinu of our generation.